Good evening, this is Pamela Ashton with LoudGuitars.com, and we're sitting here with David from Red Fang.
Hi.
Happy to have you with us. Thank you for taking the time.
Sure, it's good to be here.
And tonight we're at Montreal Metropolis. I saw you guys play this summer at the Heavy MTL, and it was a most excellent show. The crowd really responded well. Have you been touring since then?
Yeah, this year has been the most touring we've done. We really have been touring since March. With a few breaks. We went to we did a tour in March out to this concert called Rock on the Range, and then let me think here. March, May. We had a little bit of a break there. Then we went to Europe and played for a month in Europe, and that was our first time over there, and I loved it. It was awesome. Then we came back I might be getting my timeline mixed up. Then we came back and we did that Heavy MTL, which was really amazing. That place was great out on that island and tons of cool bands, and I wish we could have stayed there for like the whole thing.
It's an awesome
But it was,
venue.
yeah, it was really cool. That's one of the larger crowds we've played to. When we were in Europe, though, we played Hellfest, which is in France, and it was a 3-day festival. Tons of like Judas Priest, Scorpions, Ozzy, Bad Brains, Stooges. Like I didn't get to see all those because we were only there one day, but that was also really amazing. It was great. Goatsnake was there, Electric Wizard, tons of good bands. So that was awesome. So we haven't been touring constantly since then, but pretty much since March of this year, we've been on the road with a few breaks here and there, and I love it. I'm glad we're doing this much touring. It's good.
Now, you've worked with some of the band members before.
Oh yeah.
So is that making touring a little bit easier?
Yeah, we're all friends, even outside of the band, so that definitely makes it easier. And because we're, like these other bands, they're in big tour buses. We're in a Ford Econoline, 5 of us, and all our gear, no trailer. So we're packed in there pretty tight. But we're all good friends, so we all get along. I mean, sometimes, like I was a little grumpy last night. We got to the hotel. Every once in a while there's a little bit of friction, but mostly it works great. And I like this style of touring. I don't want to have to carry a trailer, although we're going to have to at some point. And like we don't really have we're using a house sound crew everywhere we go because we don't have our own sound guy yet. So maybe like next year probably we will want to carry a sound person with us, and that'll mean getting a trailer and adjusting our van. We have this cage built in the back to keep all the gear separate from us. Which actually came in really handy one time. We rolled our van.
Wow.
Basically the same model van we have. We were coming back from Seattle to Portland, which is where we all live, and I was asleep, but a deer was suddenly in the road. Aaron swerved to avoid it, missed the deer, and then tried to correct, but we were going too fast, and we hit the median and rolled over twice and landed on our wheels, landed right side up, and we had 6 people in there, the band and Chris, our tour manager, and a sound guy. And the worst injury was our friend Adam, who's doing sound, got a fractured rib. So we were all okay, but the van was totaled, and that cage that we have built in there is built by a friend of ours in a band from Portland called Mongoloid Village. I think that worked as a roll bar, and it kept the top of the van from crushing. So we had him put another one in our new van. So not to get too heavy about that stuff, but we did have a pretty serious accident, and we were all okay. I remember walking around after. A lot of our like pillows and clothes and bags flew out of the van, and I was walking around in the median of the highway, like finding people's phones and iPods and stuff, and I remember just having this moment of like, this is just junk. Doesn't mean anything because we're all alive and we're okay. So anyway, sorry to get sidetracked onto that story, but yeah. So we're just traveling in a little van. It's 5 of us, and we have been in 3 of us before Red Fang. We're in a band called Party Time, and me and the drummer John. I've been playing with John like 15 years ago. We started playing together back in North Carolina. A band called the Mercury Birds. And I was also in a band with our other guitar player Brian called Last of the Juanitas. Me and Aaron and John kind of had this side project thing before Red Fang actually started. And I might be leaving something out, but we've all played in other bands together for a long time. And Red Fang, I guess, is like 6 years now. But yeah, we get along great. for the most part.
When you're in the band for periods of time, do you do any writing in that type of situation? Or
no, we don't too much. Mostly because of just the space restriction. I mean, you could sit in there kind of with a guitar, but there's just not enough room for us to really do that. We've been talking about that more and more though, because we have been this year so busy on the road, and I'm not tired of our songs at all, but I am excited to write new stuff. And so after this tour with Macedon, we get home like December 10th, and we have 2 months, and we're going to focus on writing new stuff. Because yeah, when we're on the road, we don't really, we just don't have the space to do it. I mean, we could sort of like here, like in the backstage room, but mostly it's time for us to like get food and, you know, our gear's on stage, and so we don't really write on the road. I mean, we might have like an idea that somebody will hum, but
and how do you preserve those ideas if they come to you on the road? Is there a gadget that you're...
yeah, I have a little MP3 player that also has a microphone on it, and
Okay.
I'll record that. But that's kind of rare. I don't really do that a whole lot. But yeah, I try to, if I come up with an idea, because even if I'm at home and like right in front of the computer where I will record stuff sometimes, if I don't record it, it might just be gone. It might disappear. Which is maybe that's how it should go. If it's not good enough for it to stick with me, then maybe it's okay that it's gone. But sometimes I'll like play something and then I'll come back and I'll be playing and I was like, it just doesn't quite have the same feel as it did before, so I wish I had recorded that. But yeah, recording bits and pieces, if you want to talk about how we write our songs, that's we all contribute to the songs. There's not really one person in the band that is the main songwriter. So we'll all come up with riffs, sometimes a fully formed song or an almost fully fleshed out song. But a lot of times it's just like, I have this part and we have these other parts, and let's see how we can, we'll all do those come up with those ideas independently, and then at practice we'll see how can we turn this into a song all together. So that's kind of how we write. There's not like one person saying, here's the song I wrote, learn this, and you play this, and we all come up with stuff.
So Red Fang is then really a collaboration of all of your musical skills all put together, like everything from the moment a song is conceived.
Yeah, I mean, it may start like the riff or the main part of the song might come from one of us, but then we bring it to practice and everybody adds to, and you know, sometimes you'll bring an idea to practice and we'll kind of be like, well, I thought that was cool, but it doesn't really work.
Okay.
When you try to do it as when you try to turn it into a song. But yeah, it's pretty much all of us. Even John, our drummer, he sometimes, I mean, he doesn't play a guitar or anything, he just plays drums, but there's been a few songs where he's like, hey, what if you did this? And maybe a more rhythmic idea or whatever, but yeah, so we all contribute to the songs.
And in the studio, how do the tracks go down usually?
Well, what we've done a couple different ways. What I really like is, I don't like laying down tracks separately. I like playing live in the studio. So where, you know, there will be separation, the cabinets, the amps will be in separate spaces so that there's separation on the mics, but I like when we have headphones and I can see John playing drums, I can see Aaron playing bass, I can see Brian playing guitar. We always do vocals separately, but I like performing the music live. And we have done a couple things where we laid down the drum tracks and then, you know, added the bass tracks, added the guitar tracks. I don't prefer that. It just doesn't have the same feel because, like, I don't mind. I think it can be really good for some songs if it's not like click tracks. I don't want to use a click track because then it loses this feeling. It becomes stiff. So I like when, you know, if we're playing together and you can kind of tell, oh yeah, we're getting a little bit sped up here and it's okay, and then we can relax into this next part. I think that adds to the songs. So I prefer to record that way. But we have done it where we've laid down the drums first and a couple different things, but I prefer doing it live.
And the bass is going over the drums when you do it like that? Or is it the guitars that go over the drums?
You mean if we lay down the drums independently?
Yeah.
We usually start with the drums. It seems like it always starts with the drums. And then, I don't know, then bass for the guitars, I'm not even sure. Because we haven't done it that way too much.
Okay.
I find it's harder, especially like if there's moments where the song kind of needs to breathe. If I can't see what they're doing and hear it right then, it's more difficult. Like I'll have, John will do something on the drums. That's okay. do something on the drums, and if I'm just listening to a recorded track and then trying to play along with what he did, I have to kind of learn what he did, and then, because there might be a part where, like we hold it for a minute and then come back in. It's much easier to do that live, I find, anyway. And I like the imperfections that might get introduced that way.
Yeah, you're reading off each other's vibes and your energy, and it gives a whole new warmth. It's like analog for real.
Yeah, it's more live feeling, so I like that way of recording.
And what are you playing through these days?
My gear, actually, the amps, we all play Sun Betas. They're from the 70s, I believe. There are no tubes in them. I think they're solid state or MOSFET. I'm not sure the type of electronics that's in there, but Sun Beta leads and a Sun Beta bass. And I think Buzz from the Melvins uses them. I think Kurt Cobain used them. A bunch of people have used them, and our bass player they're actually all owned by Aaron, our bass player. He's been kind of collecting them for a while, and he bought them originally in combo amps, like the head and the speaker all in one.
Okay.
But then he took them out of that and we have these little real simple little wooden boxes that he built. So they're sort of custom heads. I mean, they can run even though they were originally in a combo, they're made to run a cabinet. Or you can run a cabinet with them also. So my setup is a Sun Beta lead as my amp. I have a Marshall cabinet. It's actually kind of one of their slightly smaller Marshall cabinets. I'm not sure the name of it. And I have the channel switcher, because the Sun Betas have two identical channels, so I have them set slightly different for just sort of an EQ and a boost change. So I have the channel switcher, and my pedals are very simple. I have a tuner and a phaser, an MXR phaser, which I only really use for a couple of parts. So it's pretty much just that. My guitar is a 1972 Telecaster thin line, which I love. It's the first guitar I ever bought, and it needs a little work because it's not a reissue, it's an original one, but I've always loved that guitar, and that's pretty much it. My backup guitar is, I just recently bought a new Fender released this line called Fender Blacktop, and I bought a Tele Blacktop, which is, most Teles, will have like the lipstick pickup at the bridge and a different pickup down there. These have two humbuckers in them, so I like, and the thin line that I play also has these humbuckers called Fender wide range humbuckers, and I love the way they sound. So I tried to get as close as I could to that guitar with this Fender Blacktop, but I also really like it. It plays nice. There was a couple of the input jack was kind of cheaply made, and a couple other pieces on there I replaced the knobs, input jack, and I'm not even sure what it's called. It's a little string holder downer thing up on the headstock. That thing was like tinfoil. But other than that, it plays nice, and it's a nice guitar. So that's basically my setup. Pretty minimal. Just guitar, tuner, phaser, into the Sun Beta lead, into a Marshall cabinet. And that's it.
Beautiful. It keeps things nice and simple when you're setting up and tearing down.
Yeah, less stuff to haul around. Oh, and I forgot one other thing that I'm using. Because a couple of songs on our new record we recorded in C, in drop C. And I don't want to carry another guitar set up in C, because I only bring two guitars with me. I'd love to bring more guitars, because of our van situation, we have to keep it minimal. So I use a Morpheus drop tune pedal, which is basically a pitch shifter that handles full chords. It can handle the whole output of the guitar at once. Like the octave pedals I've used before, like if you try to play more than one note, the thing just can't pick out which note to transpose. So this thing can handle just like a chord. It's basically like you've tuned your whole guitar down, and it can go like a whole octave down. I only use it to go a full step down. So I use that also for a couple of the songs that we play live. And Aaron and Brian actually have guitars set up in C. So mine is, I'm sort of faking it with that, but it means I can use my same guitar and just click a button and I'm back to normal tuning or in C. So it's nice. So I use that also. Forgot about that.
And how about in the studio? Do you find that when you're in the studio, are you getting the sounds that you want to produce live? Do you feel that you're pretty close?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's definitely part of the goal, to, like I was saying, just to capture it live, capture that live energy and the sound as well. I wish we had more time. Like our first record, Half of it was recorded actually in my house by my roommate, Mike Anzalone. So that was like in my living room, in the kitchen, and we just had stuff spread out and drums near the fireplace in the living room. So half of that record is there. The other half was at a studio, and those were pretty just fast and quick. We were just like, let's just play the songs and get a good recording of them, and it worked good. And there's one other song from a different session on the record, Good to Die. The new record, we went to a studio and called the Type Foundry, and we worked with Chris Funk as a producer. He's one of the members of the Decemberists. It's a very different band from us. They're sort of folky. I'm not even sure how to describe them. But very different from Red Fang, but it worked out great to work with him. And in that studio, we had lots of toys to play with. It was awesome. We had tons of pedals, tons of amps. Like we used an orange Thunderverb to reamp Aaron's bass through. We ran all of his bass tracks back through that after he had recorded them, and that just added up this nice thickness. I used the Sun beta lead that I use and an amp that I'm going to forget the name of. I can't remember the name of the amp. Anyway, some other amp and lots of pedals. So there we had we didn't, with the new album with Murder the Mountains, we didn't try as much to capture just like a live sound. It was more about how can we make this song be what it needs to be, not as stripped down. It's not as it's not as stripped down or as punk rock or whatever you want to call that. It was more, what does the song need, is what we tried to do. And Chris Funk was great at helping us bring that out. So we went a little farther with things as far as overdubs and effects than we did on the first album. And we do try to sort of reproduce it live. There's one song that we've never, well, that's not true. I was going to say there's one song we have never played live, but we used to play it live, but the song called The Undertow, it's kind of a slower song on the album. There's a lot of, it would just mean more pedals basically for us to do it. But yeah, I guess mostly it is to capture what we do live, but on Murder the Mountains we went a little outside of that.
Hey, you played a little more. Embellished.
Yeah, we added some more overdubs and things that we can't do live, so and had a lot more toys to play with.
So let's say you meet a genie from a bottle and he's like, okay, whatever you want, gear-wise, bus-wise, would you change how you're touring? Would you change how much gear you're bringing? If you could do anything in a heartbeat? Is that an obvious question?
No.
Okay.
I would definitely change some things. I mean, it would be great to have a bus. Those buses are expensive though, so we can't really afford that. I mean, that would be nice. The main thing about that is that right now we all rotate driving. Actually, except me, I'm the only one that doesn't drive. So it would be nice to have, for no one to have to deal with driving. It would be awesome if we had a driver. It would be rad to be able to bring a sound person. I wouldn't mind, I mean, I do all my own guitar teching, but it's pretty simple. We don't have wireless or anything like that. Our stage setup is pretty minimal, so. But it would be nice to have someone who could oh yeah, you're, like one of my pickups is messing up on my 72 right now, so it'd be nice to have somebody let me put in a new pickup or whatever, which I could do also, but just when we're on the road, we don't have time to do that.
Right.
So those kinds of things would be rad. It would be nice to bring a couple more people, a sound guy, maybe a guitar tech. As far as equipment, I would always love to have more guitars. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily need them all the time on the road, but it would be nice to have more guitars for sure.
Wanting can be different things.
Yeah, and more amplifiers for sure. I have an old Music Man amplifier that I love. It's like, I think it's called an Music Man 65 RD112, little combo amp. I love that amp. But it needs fixing right now. It has some problems, and I'd love to have an orange amp. Those amps are great. I've played these Dr. Z amps. It's like a boutique company. I believe they're in Austin, Texas. I think that's right. Anyway, those amps sound awesome. I mean, I'd love to have tons of amps and guitars and pedals and stuff to play with. Although I think mostly my playing, I like to be able to change up sounds, so just to add things. But when I'm playing live, I'm mostly I don't like to have to focus on a pedal board. I just like focusing on just playing.
Right.
And hearing what I'm doing. So as far as like some crazy huge pedal board, I probably would never do that. Although it is fun to do that when you're at home.
Do you
But
find
live,
you get inspired when you get a new piece of gear, or you
Oh, yeah.
hear a new sound coming out?
Yes, for sure. Like that drop tune pedal, when I first got it, I was like, wow, this sounds, just because it sounds heavy when you go really low. So I was like, this is cool. But I really only use it just to drop one step in these two songs. But yeah, it's kind of like, even when you get a new guitar and you're like, oh wow, this feels good. It's definitely inspiring to have new toys to play with.